Well, hi, this is Darryl Davis coming here to talk about designing a career worth smiling about. This is part of a series that we've put together for you, the real estate professional, to help navigate this commission class action lawsuit that we find ourselves in, how to understand it, navigate it, come up with some perhaps techniques and dialogue for it. What I want to talk to you about today is the arguments that the plaintiff's attorney are making against our industry. And as my coaching students are aware, the basis of our training when we train our members is not memorize scripts and dialogues, but it's to use metaphors and analogies. The reason why metaphors and analogies are so much better, some people have said I've pioneered that or introduced that into our industry, because for many years it was always about memorized scripts. But the benefit and the power of using metaphors, analogies versus scripts is that you're talking from your heart, not your head. You're using your own words, not somebody else's. But most importantly, people can relate to an analogy or a metaphor. They can see themselves in that situation. So they don't just hear it, but they feel what you're saying. And so what I want to use as a metaphor and analogy with you is the actual attorneys that are the plaintiff's attorneys against our industry. So let me go through some of these things. And by the way, let me just back up. I thought about this morning. Like, I woke up thinking about this. I ran to the office and threw together this recording. So if it's a little sloppy or if there's typos, my team didn't even proof my slides, I apologize, okay? I just really wanted to get my thoughts recorded for you. So one of the arguments is that there's a collusion in our industry about the commission rates, that somehow that we've promoted or talk about and push out there that our rates are X amount, okay? So that's kind of the perception that we have about us. But everyone, when it comes to attorneys, everyone says attorneys charge a third of the winnings when they're on a contingency. So, as a matter of fact, my comment on that, it's actually published on the American Bar Association's website. Now, one of the videos I did this, I actually show the American Bar Association's website. So, if they're saying that we have colluded as an industry, saying that we tell everybody that, and actually, every study and every comment, there's always 5 to 6. Like, it's never 6% all the time, or 7% all the time, or 5%. It's like 5 to 6. It's a range. And I've gone through so much training about the pizzerias in my town. There's a range that they charge. There's a range that mechanics in my neighborhood charge to fix a muffler. I mean, there's ranges. But when it comes to attorneys who are working on, they call it contingency basis, but it's a commission. You know, whatever they win, they get a percentage of the winnings. That's what real estate agents, when we sell a house, we get a percentage of the sales price. It's direct correlation. It's the same exact concept. But I don't believe that we've published anywhere saying that this is what, I found one blog article that NAR to explain to the community that it's roughly this amount. So same thing as the Bar Association. Fees are not transparent. So part of the argument is saying that somehow we haven't been educating or communicating with the public or the homeowners about what their fees, what our fees are. Again, I've said the same thing about I don't know how much a muffler is to replace, because at this point in my life, I don't have that need. But I guarantee you, if the need comes up where I need to replace my muffler, I'll know the answer then. I also don't know how much it costs to do brain surgery, because fortunately right now, my brain is okay. At least my son says it is. But if I had a problem with my brain and I had needed it fixed, then it would become something important to me to research and find out what it costs. So somebody living in a home they may not know what a real estate professional charges until it becomes important in their life, i.e., they decide to sell. But let's go to the attorneys. So for realtors, the perception is that when this is the perception that we're not transparent. But when it comes to the plaintiff's attorney, no one is asking this question. What are they getting paid? Because I haven't seen it. There's my comment. There's no publication that has reported what the plaintiff's attorney fees are and how much they've came to, and how they came to that amount, and how they came to the amount of the damages that they're seeking. Now, from what I understand, there is a formula. The attorneys figured out the damages, but as far as the general public is concerned, because keep this in mind, part of their argument is not just for the plaintiffs, but for all consumers. That consumers have been hurt by the conduct of the real estate profession. Well, if that's true, then there should be more transparency from the attorneys on how much they're getting paid on this case. And how did they actually come up with the damages? Like, I want to see that. I think we all should see that. They say our fees are too high for the work that's being done. So for our industry, they'll say that, what does it take to sell a house? You put a lawn sign, you have some buyers come in, and then you want this ridiculous amount of thousands and thousands of dollars. First of all, I want to be real clear. Well, how much is not too much? Are they suggesting that they're going to tell us what fees we should be charging? Because from what I understand, I don't think any court, judge, attorney, state can dictate what our fees are. As a matter of fact, that's part of the argument that is the case, that there is no regulated federal fee that agents can charge. So we need to tell homeowners that it's negotiable. So if our fee is negotiable, if you're arguing on one hand that our fees are negotiable, you can't argue that what we negotiate is too high. You don't have the right to opinionate on whether it's too high or too low. So going back to this, fees are too high for the work that's being done. Well, let's look at the attorneys that are doing this lawsuit. If this lawsuit is $1 billion, which is what everybody's saying, and they're working on a commission basis of a third, well, on $1 billion, that is a $330 million payday for 2 weeks worth of work. Now, just hang with me on this. You've got the plaintiff's attorneys, they've brought in their witnesses and they've done their thing. It's been a week now. The defendants will do theirs for about a week. So you're talking about 2 weeks, and then you'll have the jury deliberate. But 2 weeks, let's give it 3 weeks. Let's say the jury's got to take a week to deliberate. Let's say 2 weeks. That's a month. So for a month, and the 2 of the 4 weeks is the jury doing their thing, so the attorneys just sit and wait. So it really is still 2 weeks. Is 2 weeks worth of work worth $330 million, a third of $1 billion? To me, that sounds too much. So if you're going to say that realtors, all they do is put up a for sale sign and they get thousands of dollars, well, my argument would be, well, to just be in court for 2 weeks to get $300 million, I think that's excessive. But here's the truth. There's many, many man hours that it goes into a case. I know this. I know that the law firms for the plaintiffs, they've done a lot, months of hours trying to figure it out. Now, if they bill, watch this is really important. I'll bet you their argument would be that, because I'd like to see their man hours. I would like them to be transparent and show the amount of work that they did to justify $330 million payday. Now, I'll bet you what would happen if they clock their hours like it was billable hours. If they clocked every minute that they spent to prepare to win this case and then charge their hourly fee, I will bet you it would be much less than $330 million. So how can they charge that much? Or why is that? How is that justified to get a third? Here's what it is. Because they have the risk that if they don't win, they don't get any of that money back, that time is spent, which, by the way, they still get reimbursed for fees, filing fees, court fees, and stuff like that. But their man hours, they've lost. So the fact that there's a higher risk for the attorneys, that's why it's perhaps a higher amount that they might win on a commission basis versus a hourly basis. Does that sound similar to the real estate agent? You're darn right it is. The big difference with a real estate agent, so let me just do that. So real estate agent, they invest their man hours in the hopes of the house selling. They invest their man hours to show them property to a particular buyer. And everybody will tell you, realtors, non-realtors, that there's sometimes, in some agents' case, more cases where it doesn't work out, the offer doesn't get accepted, the contract falls through, the buyer changes their mind, the buyer buys from somebody else, the listing expires, they hire someone. There's so many times when they don't win the case, the realtor, and they get bupkis, they get nothing. But the big difference between the agent and the attorney is all of their expenses, the advertising, the open houses, the broker's open house, the food, the mailings, the postcards, their overhead, their expenses. They don't get paid. They don't get reimbursed. Where the attorney gets their fees, those fees reimbursed. So I think that's fine that they get a higher commission. But I will say, a third, 330 million. I really would like to see those billable hours. I decided to ask the AI, how many hours does an agent? I could listen. I can give you my opinion on how much time an agent spends. But I decided to ask the AI to do some research. I'm going to show you what the AI came up with. 45 hours in just the transaction and another 69 hours in marketing. So if you put those two numbers together, you're looking at a real estate agent, which just like an attorney where it only looks like 2 weeks of court work, behind the scenes, there's many, many hours those attorneys put in. Same thing is true for the real estate professional. When you look at just the contract and the transaction, it looks like not a lot of work for a lot of money. Well, no, there's a lot of work before we even go to contract, not to mention the fact all of the buyers and sellers where it didn't work out and the time that was put into that. Okay, just coming to the end on this, two more here. The client has $1 billion in damages. You know, to me that seems excessive. How many plaintiffs are? Here's what I want to know: how many plaintiffs are there? How much did they lose each? How is it calculated? And what would the sellers have gained if they did not hire a realtor? Now, to me, that's a really important point. If you're going to justify $1 billion in damages, the only fair way to do that is then, again, you can't say that the agent charged too much. You can't say that. Agent, it's because you can't say that and say that it's not set by law. An agent can charge whatever they want. They can charge 10%. They can charge 15%. They can charge 1%. It's negotiable. It's not, so you cannot say it's too high. So the only thing you can do is you would have to say, well, based on this sale and what they charged, that the only way you could say that was too much is you'd have to prove then, well, what would they have sold for and netted if they did not hire the real estate agent? And you've got to have some evidence to validate that conversation. You can't just say, well, they would have sold for the same amount of money. Where's the data? Where's the research? Where's the study that would prove that? Because I'll tell you, in these other recordings I have plenty of studies and surveys that have been done that has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that homeowners actually make money after paying an agent a commission. Even if they paid an agent 10% commission, the homeowner would still net more money in their pocket. Last one here. Now, by the way, I just want to be clear. This is only part of it. It's not the main part of the argument. The main part of the argument that they had is that the real estate profession got in a room somewhere and colluded to set a fee. To me, that's an easy argument to argue, because not everybody charges the same amount. I could get on my phone right now and I can probably call some agents, and I can look online. I can find discount brokers. I can find agents who will do it for less. You go into the MLS, you can see that there isn't a set fee. But anyway, fees are too high that the client should receive it. They should have received. So it's kind of similar to the damages, saying that, all right, so, you basically took more money out of a client's pocket that is their money. Well, okay. I'd say the same thing about the attorney's fees, that if the plaintiff wins $1 billion, is the attorney's commission of $330 million too high? Isn't that the client's money? Like, how do you justify? If you're saying an agent charging 4, 5, 6, 7% is too high to the detriment of the client, well, how in God's name, and I mean that sincerely, can you not say the same thing about $330 million? By the way, this whole conversation about $330 million a third, I'm assuming that's what the plaintiff's attorney is getting. I'm assuming it. I don't really know, because they're not being transparent. But I am using the American Bar Association's website and the New York City Bars Association website to come up with a third, because that's what they said. 33 to 40% is the commission attorneys charge when they're working a contingent case. I hope this shed some light for you. Please stay safe, stay focused. Don't forget to keep smiling, and remember that you are essential. You make a difference. Thanks.